You want to watch After the Fyre, but you got no idea where to start. Luckily for you, your girl Susie here knows all you need to know about After the Fyre. So, first up, what time period is it set in? Well, our game is set shortly after the first, which is in about 198 AC is what we set our year for, which is 100 years before the event of Game of Thrones. And I think before we get into our time period, it's important to tell you about the Blackfyre Rebellion and why it's so significant in our campaign. So, the year is 170 AC, and a baby known as Daemon is born. He is the bastard son of King Aegon IV Targaryen, otherwise known as Aegon the Unworthy. Now, Aegon was prolific for one thing, and one thing alone. Well, two things. He was a terrible king, garbage king. Second of all, Aegon fathered a huge amount of bastards across Westeros. He could not keep in his pants. So he had a lot of illegitimate children all over the place. And there are a couple known as the Great Bastards who are incredibly important and significant to our story, one of which is the aforementioned Daemon. Now, Daemon was born in King's Landing up at court, even though he was a illegitimate child. He was trained in arms and weaponry. He was basically trained to grow up to be a knight, to be a soldier. And at the age of 12, he participated in a squire's tourney, and he won it. Now, as his prize for winning, King Aegon IV personally knighted Daemon and gifted him the ancestral Targaryen sword, Blackfyre. Now, this sword was carried by Aegon the Conqueror. This sword, he didn't grab any sword out of the armory, he grabbed the sword and gave it to a 12-year-old. Daemon, after taking the sword, took on the name Blackfyre. So he became known as Daemon Blackfyre. And Daemon continues on being the epitome of everything that a knight should be. He was chivalrous, he was handsome, he was great at fighting. All the ladies loved him, all the lords loved him, especially within the Reach, which is where House Greenmont is based. Now, the Reacher lords absolutely adored Daemon. He was everything a leader should be. He was strong, he was powerful, he was a great warrior, you know, that usual kind of deal. And they were great. It was great having Daemon around. They loved it. It was great. You know, he'd turn up all the tourneys. They'd be like, oh my God, it's Daemon. And then he'd have a great time. The problem came, Fourth died. Now, the last thing he did before he died on his deathbed was legitimize his illegitimate children. So all those bastards became legitimate royal children, which caused a little bit of a problem because not only did Aegon IV have illegitimate children, but he had true-born children, legitimate children, one of which was Daemon II Targaryen, who obviously, upon the death of his father, became the next king. Now, Daemon is also known as Daemon the Good. He is a conciliator, he is a peace seeker. He is the guy that's like the chill guy that you kind of want running a kingdom, because he's not going to run off and go to war at just like the drop of a hat for no reason. But he was not necessarily popular with some lords in the Reach because of this. Because during this whole time, Dorne was not a part of the Seven Kingdoms. So the Dornish houses along the Red Mountains, here in the map, would raid the houses on the Reach, and the Reachers would fight back. And it had been this generational long conflict between the Reach and Dorne. They're constantly fighting. Now, Daemon, upon his ascension of the throne, was very much like, hey, let's stop. Let's not. And let's be peaceful. Let's bring Dawn into the Seven Kingdoms. And he married Miriam Martell, who was the Princess of Dawn, bringing Dawn into the Seven Kingdoms. This was wildly unpopular with some people, very popular with others. So in the face of this, lords saw Daemon and his legitimization and said, hang on, this guy should be king. Not this guy. This guy. We want this guy. And Daemon was pushed and kind of persuaded to push his claim by those around him, including lords such as Sir Quentin Ball, who is father to Lord Harris Ball, who we meet in After the Fyre. So in 196 AC, Daemon begins his rebellion. And for his sigil, Daemon takes Targaryen sigil with colors reversed. So it's a red field with a black dragon, which earned him the name the Black Dragon, and meant that in the future, people referring to him would say the Black Dragon, and Daemon was the Red Dragon. And a question often asked of people in that time period about who they supported would be red or black. Red being Targaryen, black being Daemon. Now, this all came to a head. The decision to declare open rebellion was made quickly. Daemon got himself out of King's Landing pretty quickly, rested, and at the end of 196 AC, there was a battle, and it was called the Battle of the Red Grass Field, and it would mark the end of Daemon's rebellion. Daemon and his forces put on a extremely strong show at the beginning of the battle. They broke through the vanguard, which was led by Lord Donald Arryn, and they put the loyalist forces on the back foot until Sir Gawain Corbury of the Kingsguard arrived with reinforcements. Now, battle, Gawain Corbury and Daemon Blackfyre dueled. They wheeled about each other on horseback for almost an hour, it is said, before Daemon cut Gawain, sending him to the ground. However, Daemon, being the good chivalrous warrior that he was, decided he himself would dismount and issue orders and help Gawain off the battlefield so he wasn't trampled by the horses, in an act of mercy and a chivalry that ultimately cost Daemon his life. As this battle was happening, Sir Brynden Rivers, otherwise the Blood Raven, was creeping up a ridge known as the Weeping Ridge that overlooked the battlefield. So as Gawain and Daemon are battling, Brynden appears at the top, and as Daemon dismounts to help Gawain, Brynden unleashed a volley of arrows from his company, the Raven's Teeth, which unfortunately slew Daemon on the battlefield. After that, Daemon's son picked up the sword Blackfyre and attempted to lead a charge to take down Brynden Rivers, but he himself was also slain by arrows. Sir Aegon Rivers took up the sword and chased after Blood Raven. Now they got into a battle, a one-on-one battle, and it was a fierce, bloody, hateful battle as Rivers was, as Brynden Rivers, otherwise known as Bittersteel, accused and that Blood Raven was a kinslayer, as Daemon was his half-brother, as Bittersteel is also one of Aegon's bastards. So Bittersteel fought hard, and he managed to strike Blood Raven in the face and take one of his eyes. Now, eventually, Bittersteel managed to escape the battlefield, and with that, he also took Daemon's surviving children and fled across the narrow sea to Essos in Tyrosh, where they had remained in exile. Now, what does that mean for House Greenmont? Well, House Greenmont sided with Daemon. They saw him as a king that they could follow. So Lord Lucas, his heir Lan, and his son Rylan headed out with Daemon's war party and were present at the Battle of the Red Grass Field. Also at the battlefield was Sir Oliver Ironwood, who was Master at Arms at Greenmont, but he had left a lot of time, sometime earlier, to join Daemon and be one of his guardians, one of his generals, one of his trusted men. Now, the Battle of the Redgrass Field was incredibly bloody and brutal for House Greenmont. Lan was slain on the battlefield, and Rylan was captured, and he instead chose to die rather than take the Black. He would not go to the war. Lord Lucas was gravely wounded. He suffered a incredibly bad leg injury. It was shattered. His leg bones were just in pieces, and that would remain with him for the rest of his life, and ultimately would cause his death sometime later, 2 years later, in fact, in 198 AC. As for the rest of House Greenmont, of their choosing to back Daemon Blackfyre, they lost lands, they lost money, they lost power and influence, but they also lost their youngest daughter, Lady Miria Greenmont, who was taken to Summerhall as a ward to ensure House Greenmont's future cooperation and prevent any chance of there being future rebellion within the house. And that is where we get up to date with the beginning of season 1. That is House Greenmont as it is. So at that point, the Lady Mara is over at House Married. Simon, the remaining son of House Greenmont, is at the Citadel, becoming a maester. And the only member of House Greenmont left, well, the only 2 members of House Greenmont left at Fox Hollow, which is our Greenmont house, is Lady Marcia, who is married to Lord Lucas, and Lady Lana Greenmont, who is Lord Lucas's sister and the children of Greenmont's aunt. So that's everything you need to know about House Greenmont and the Blackfyre Rebellion and where it left us. So you should tune in to After the Fyre every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is 8 p.m. GMT on twitch.tv/Juicy Fruits fan.